And who at, coming fresh out of college with the idea that you were going to go into some sort of business enterprise or things like that, doesn't want to dream as big as you can. And that dream included making sure that it was equitable for all sides. And that was, what I understood was social entrepreneurship. And I wanted to be a social entrepreneur. I thought that was the coolest job in America.
Hey guys, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you've tuned in. That was Ryan Black, the CEO and one of the co-founders of SAMBAZON, the first and now leading purveyor of certified organic and fair trade acai. What is acai? Well, it's thought to be the most powerful superfood in the Amazon. It's grown on the acai palm in the floodplains of the rainforest and wild harvested by hand. And this nutritional powerhouse has long been a staple of indigenous diets. SAMBAZON makes superfruit packs for your smoothies, ready-to-eat bowls, and if you haven't had an acai bowl, you are really missing out. They make energy drinks, fresh juices, and more. You can find their products at major retailers like Costco, your favorite smoothie shop, or at any one of their SAMBAZON locations. You can even find them now at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport in North Carolina. What's different about SAMBAZON though? Founded on triple bottom line principles, their products are ethically sourced and hand harvested by local farmers and feature organic and fair trade certifications. Their vertical supply chain allows them to offer a palm to palm promise, as they say, which gives back to the community that harvests their acai fruit and establishes a direct connection between their farmers and you along the way. Founded 23 years ago on a dream, thanks to a surf trip to Brazil and a credit card, SAMBAZON is in another chapter of growth and awareness, but there are no plans at all to let up on the purpose behind the brand. In my conversation with Ryan, we'll talk about the early days of the brand, his social entrepreneurship journey, the progress that they've made, the challenges they've faced, the things that they're still trying to tackle, and of course, what it takes to sustain a sustainable business. If, like Ryan, being a social entrepreneur sounds like the coolest job you can have, well, then you're going to want to dive in. He's so passionate about the product, the people that make it, and that dream. Ryan and the SAMBAZON founders are what he calls second-generation pioneers in this space. So listen up. There's a lot you can learn, a lot of insights in here. This is how you build on purpose and keep that purpose for 20 years and beyond. There are so many great takeaways in this chat. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you again for being here. Here's my chat with Ryan Black. Welcome to Good Things Happening, the show that explores the sustainability progress that's being made just under the surface at your favorite brand or company. I'm your host, Derek Sabori, and these are the people making it happen.
Like I planned it.
Exactly. This is just like we planned it, Ryan. Well, hey, Ryan Black, welcome to the Good Things Happening podcast show. Thank you for being here.
You got it, man. Great to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you. And I'm so excited for this conversation. One, you're the CEO of SAMBAZON. You're the founder of SAMBAZON, one of the co-founders. And I should clarify. I've always said SAMBAZON. I have a feeling I've also heard it as SAMBAZON. How do you say it?
Potato. It depends if you're saying it in Portuguese or English, but SAMBAZON, it works. Just don't mess up acai. SAMBAZON, you can mess up SAMBAZON. That's okay.
Yeah, and acai, that part I know. And I love that SAMBAZON or SAMBAZON. I'm going to go with SAMBAZON because that's what I've always said. But has sort of there's an acronym that you guys built. I mean, that was a word that was constructed from. Go ahead.
This is true. It started out from the very beginning with this idea that we could use this little acai berry to make a positive difference in the Amazon rainforest and in an industry that was just really in its infancy and beginning. So thinking of trying to come up with a name for the company and wanting it to mean something and something Brazilian, kind of came up with this samba idea and came up with an acronym which basically represents sustainable management of the Brazilian Amazon, which in fact is exactly what we do with our acai trees and our acai berries in Brazil, is sustainable forest management. So that's where the name came from.
And I love it. And you guys have been at this for so long. I mean, I've always, respected the work that you guys do, purpose-driven from the beginning, focused on sustainability, focused on traceability, focused on, positive supply chains, benefiting workers. Tell us, what was the catalyst for that, Ryan? When you guys started this company, why was it so important for you to not just, go in there and build a company and make, bazillions of dollars, but really build something that was meaningful and do it with purpose? How did that all begin?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just something inside of us, if you will, that, I remember being fresh out of college and, reading some books like, Natural Capitalism by Paul Hawken, How to Build a Business. He did that one too. Learning about Anita Roddick and the Body Shop, and even Ben and Jerry's, how that they had crafted a business, but then kind of quickly figured out that without a purpose, business for business sake just wasn't that cool anymore, honestly. And, or, maybe said a better way, that it would be more difficult, it'd be a bigger challenge to do it, to make yourself successful, which means you get some scale and you get profitability and things like that, to do it with a green lens to it, with something that really, when that you make a triple bottom line profit, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, I'm sure, but that that you did it all. So it's like you didn't cut any corners. And who coming fresh out of college with the idea that you were going to go into some sort of business enterprise or things like that doesn't want to dream as big as you can. And that dream included making sure that it was equitable for all sides. And that was, what I understood was social entrepreneurship. And I wanted to be a social entrepreneur. I thought that was the coolest job in America.
It still is. I'm with you on that.
Really?
But I mean, gosh, that was, I think, ahead of your time. And I love actually hearing that it was a challenge. I mean, you were a former pro athlete, so you were up for that challenge, right? I mean, that's what you did. You crave that? Did you're like, you know what? I'm going to do this better.
I think so. I mean, there's sort of, maybe that's the opposite of like just getting a job. I mean, no disrespect to anybody or their path or anything like that. I had an opportunity to kind of like go in and I actually did this. I started working in the insurance and financial services industry, if you will. Don't get me wrong, paid really well, all that stuff. But for me, it was sort of just like going in an entry level and then thinking about a career path over the next decade or whatever it is. And probably have some of my friends not happy with me for saying this or something like that. But I just saw that this, like, no way, man. I wanted to like take on the world. I wanted to, do something that 99 of 100 people told me that I wasn't going to be able to do. That was a lot more exciting to me than just the status quo. I heard a quote. Somebody once said that the passion is in the risk. And so for me, it was like, go after something that's really, really risky that would have a big payout. And if I failed or whatever it is, like, that's okay. You dust yourself off, you get up, you try again. I think that's just a little bit of the, entrepreneurial mentality, that clock that sort of ticks inside of certainly my head and some of my co-founders' heads that made us want to kind of go big or go home.
What felt risky about it at that time? Was it just so sort of off the charts and so different and unique to want to do something fair trade, want to know where your products came from and want to give back to communities? Was that the risk, or was there something else?
No, I think it was more about, creating an enterprise out of nothing. We didn't have any money. Nobody could pronounce what we were trying to sell, but it was like, it was so good, it was just so good. Anybody who tried it would be like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand why you're so passionate about this product. And that was more of the risk than necessarily doing it in a fair trade way or an organic way. Inherently, we got a little bit lucky in that sense because, as they say in every hero's journey, there's like a villain, right? Or something you're trying to protect or something. And it was pretty easy for us because the Amazon rainforest is like, this is like the poster child fruit or product even of the Amazon rainforest. So we sort of had that from the beginning. We had our cause, if you will. And then just working on, now there didn't exist certification standards for what we were trying to do.
Mm.
But it was there. It was there for the taking, let's just say. And between myself and Travis Baumgartner, one of my few co-founders, and our chief customer officer, even today, he had also a background in environmental geography and a real knack for sustainability, and had worked with some other sustainable rainforest products in Brazil previously, and had a lot of knowledge about how to go about it. So he definitely helped lead the way in some aspects of this. And then, as they say, it really did take a village. We had certain people out, banging on doors, knocking on doors and trying to introduce Açaí to people. We had other people like Travis, who was more in the forest working on, certification and things like that. So, lot of different, especially in a vertical company where today, like we literally put our hands into the dirt in the Amazon, and then we go all the way to, our people handing you an acai bowl across the counter of our own stores and things like that. So there's a lot that can go right or go wrong in between. So you could say there's a lot of risk in between all of that, a lot of distance. Product is frozen, so it has to stay frozen the whole time, right? So there's a lot of risk in those sort of things, but nothing that, ever made me think honestly that I was, about to give up or things like that. I mean, it could have failed. We could have gone bankrupt. That almost happened a couple of times. Or you could have, it's like running out of gas, as long as you got gas in the tank, you're still, you keep your foot on the gas pedal. So that's kind of a little bit of our history.
I want to latch on to that entrepreneurial journey as well and get a sense of, how long did it take to break through? I mean, there is that where you're just holding on, you've got to stay resilient, you've got to persist and believe. How long would you say that window was where you're like, we just got to break through? What was your breakthrough, pathway?
There's so many of them, man. I think I'm thinking we're having some breakthrough moments right now, actually. It literally, it's like success, right? It's a journey, not a destination. And so there's these unlocks over time. I mean, one of the first ones, we had a dermatologist writer to the stars, Nicholas Perricone, write a book called The Perricone Promise, where he named acai as the world's #1 superfood. And all of a sudden, like, we were on the map. This is like 2002, 2003. I got introduced through a friend. He'd never even heard of acai. We told him about it. And the next thing you know, it's in his book as like the #1 thing. And you had, celebrity actresses and people like that who are like now talking about the acai berry because they heard about it from the Perricone Promise. That got us in People magazine, as an example, my brother Jeremy and I. And so there's breakthroughs. The biggest breakthroughs, I feel like, or there's different kinds, but I'm thinking more of like awareness, breakthroughs in awareness. And as an example, just last month in April, one of our great customers, Smoothie King, who's been an institution of juice and smoothie bars for decades in this country, finally launched acai bowls in a meaningful way last month, and did a huge advertising campaign. It was really cute. It was called Want a Spoon, and put acai on billboards in 20 different cities in America, and put point of sale all over their stores, and are turning Americans on, and everybody in America, turning people on to acai bowls. And I just think, that's a breakthrough. That's right there is going to cause this increase in awareness that's really we're going to feel it in the acai business for some time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet. So 20 plus years in, you're still having breakthrough moments. You're still striving. And I think you said, success is a journey. I know you would say sustainability is a journey as well. And what I love, Ryan, what I'm always so impressed with is you as a leader, you as a CEO, you're using language that not all CEOs use, right? Triple bottom line, sustainability, fair trade, traceable supply chains, et cetera. How have you been able to keep up that pace? For more than 20 years, you've been beating that drum. I know you guys have gone through rounds of investment and the company is growing. What would you say has been your what's been the glue that's kept that there, where you're like, you never abandoned it?
I think, Derek, it's that attitude of continuous improvement and learning, really. And that's just something that, as I don't know, as people, me personally, I'll speak for myself. I'm curious. I want to learn more. I think, learning is like the key to life. Like, knowledge is the power, right? So, and I didn't start out as like a sustainability professor or anything like that, and I'm far from one now. But we've had great team members at SAMBAZON who have come and educated us, have come from bigger companies that have gone way further in sustainability and greenhouse gas emissions, and help developing our impact reports and things like that. So we're continuing to try to keep up and push the envelope and learn and grow, and just keep getting better. And I think, personally, I went to Boulder, University of Colorado in Boulder. So I was a little bit green. I was a little bit of a hippie, and I was an athlete, but I didn't, again, I didn't come into this with a degree in sustainability. So it's easy to keep continuing when you kind of start from the bottom, I think. But I've been very impressed with what our team has been able to accomplish, even in recent years, with our second and about to be third publication of our impact report, looking at not just phase 1, but phase 2, phase 3 greenhouse gas emissions, and really, really getting down to the heart of the matter about what our operation emits, our carbon, let's just say neutrality, and how little choices it might be the material that your acai bowls are made with, or the way they're packaged, or the ink that you're using. All these things contribute to your emissions, right? And to your impact and your footprint. And learning about how we can now chart goals out into the future, and then make different decisions and changes in order to achieve those goals. That's a whole nother score and part of the business that people don't see as the consumer, but we're playing that game behind the scenes.
I love that. And I'll put the link to that impact report that you're talking about. There's some great work that you guys are mentioning in there, and really building that out. The blog is great, keeping us updated on stories. You mentioned, being influenced by others, by other friends. I know community collaboration, that's been really big. I'm going to refer to Seeding Change, right? The film that you guys did, that you guys were in, it started as your story. Jeremy produced it, your brother. I think I want to try to get the guys on the show as well to talk about making that film. But I know that, you guys relied so much on community, and that really helped drive things as well, right? You had friends you guys were all pushing each other. Can you talk a little bit about community and collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. Taking a step back, in the 70s, in this country, there was kind of a group, we jokingly call them hippies because we're friends. It's a close friend thing, but a group of entrepreneurs who really set out to establish organic standards in this country. You hear the stories about the guy that, went to India and learned how to make tofu, and came back and made it in a bathtub, and then started making all these soy products, and then made soy milk. And all of a sudden you have a huge plant-based soy industry because of this guy that literally started making it in a bathtub. Or you have the guy who used to carry organic rice in the back of his pickup truck or something like that. And then he ended up becoming the CEO, starting at the bottom, but eventually becoming the CEO of United Natural Foods, which is the largest, natural and organic foods wholesaler in the United States. So anyways, this is the first generation guys, right?
Yeah.
Their kids, the next generation, let's just call them, which is my generation, our generation, they're the same age as me, Gen X, baby.
Yeah.
We kind of came into an industry where you already had Whole Foods and you had Wild Oats. You had these big retailers that were already there. So the first generation did all this heavy lifting to give us the opportunity to sort of go and follow our dreams in these stores, right? Which they didn't have. They just had the local ones. And the cool thing about it is twofold. One is the mentoring that the older generation has given to that second generation, my generation, was awesome. So that's the community part where these guys, a lot of them, they all learned a ton. A lot of them made a lot of money, and they then took that knowledge and they took, investment dollars that they made and invested in us. So they really helped mentor us along, which was fantastic, and has been. And the second part of it was almost like, if you're an entrepreneur in, 2000 or 2005 or 2010, and you kind of come into the industry and your principles were right, there's a whole other group in the natural organic foods world of brothers and sisters who were trying to do the same thing. And as long as you guys you found commonality through the goals and the aspirations and the motivations that you had for your company, and you were targeting the same customers and consumers both, then all of a sudden this camaraderie started happening, this community started happening. And whether, let me think of some of my friends, whether you were in chocolate or yerba mate or hemp or, organic soap, any of these different commodities, it didn't really matter. We were all showing up at the same trade shows, dealing with the same customers, working with the same consumers, and, grew this community together. And so Seeding Change, the movie, actually highlights that one fact. It's not a movie about SAMBAZON and SAMBAZON's supply chain or anything like that. It's actually about the community of the second generation natural foods explorers and entrepreneurs who were supported by the former generation, and then helped each other, lifted each other up, like in rock climbing, as a friend of mine always says, helped each other to be successful in their businesses. So that's what the film is all about. The older generation seeding the next generation, and then our generation, that second generation, starting to seed the third generation of natural foods entrepreneurs, which are now, very often prevalent and starting to grow the third generation of companies as well.
So, it sounds like, you would attribute that to your success, right? This community, the mentoring, and just that sense of camaraderie, and knowing that none of us can do it alone. You're all going to learn from each other. And I find that fascinating. Even though you're pursuing the same customers, you didn't let that keep you in silos. You used the strength of each other's commitment to drive things forward, right?
Absolutely. And shared best practices. We're also, many of those companies, a couple of the founders of, Numi Tea and Guayaki Yerba Mate, they actually founded a nonprofit group called One Step Closer, that I was just with that group a week ago. But that group is formally helping each other. And so it's like we joke and say it's like a support group for natural foods CEOs, organic food CEOs. But we're all coming together, struggling with the same things. Is it technology? Is it the way that the supermarkets promotions work, or the distributors, or the brokers, or whatever it might be? There's so many commonalities when you're in the same industry. It doesn't matter that one of you is selling, like I said, juice, and the other one is selling, personal care. It doesn't matter what the widget is, if you will. It's more about that commitment you have, and like a psychographic, not really a demographic, but a psychographic. It's like people who are on that same kind of wave of consciousness, and they're in business and they're dealing with the same people, have formed a community and help each other.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Speaking of psychographics and your end customer, would you say, I would imagine in the early days, maybe it's 50-50, but there were people that love your product because they love acai, and when they discover it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is magic. What is this? And there are others that will imagine that were drawn to your company and brand because of its purpose and its commitment and doing the right thing. Was it a little bit of both? And are you finding when you find new customers, is it because of the product or because of the purpose?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess it's a little bit of both. I would guess, though, that, and we talk about this in marketing, that, I would say 90% of people come to your product because of your product, right? Doesn't matter that it's, healthy, if it tastes terrible, or it's really expensive or something like that, you're not going to get very far, typically
Mm-hmm.
speaking. We have worked pretty hard to try to deliver to the customer what they're looking for, what they want. It's good for your body. It's good for your family. It's good for, for your kids or whatever it is. It tastes good. It's nutritious. Things that are really like you buy it for you sort of thing. But we've found that as people peel the layer of the onion a little bit, they dig a little bit deeper when they find out the commitments that we have to organic agriculture or fair trade or things like that. That all automatically creates like an emotional bond and a loyalty factor that is very, very strong. Much stronger than just the, hey, I like the taste of your product sort of thing. But we don't lead with it. Don't lead with it. We make it secondary purposefully. And it's also, you don't want to get out there and say, buy my, save the rainforest, buy my product. It's a little bit cheap, you don't want to do that. You want to say, hey, and that's where the challenge goes. We want to be the best product, the best price, and the best value. And oh, by the way, it's all clean label. It's all zero waste. It's all, socially and environmentally equitable. We want it. We want it all. We're greedy in that sense, right? But I think that is sort of that semi-contagious desire that social entrepreneurs have, that they want all the products out there, all the services out there to be tied in to the triple bottom line. And the triple bottom line for anybody who's listening is, in business, you have this, everybody talks about the bottom line, right? The bottom line is like your profit line. Well, the triple bottom line, which is something that an economist coined in the 80s, I believe.
90s, yeah.
Okay. John Elkington, I think, is his name.
That's right. That's
yep.
right.
Basically said, well, that's great. You can have that. Let's just call that the economic bottom line. But you can also have a social bottom line where you really think about the way that everybody, all of your stakeholders are paid or compensated or valued in the chain and not exploited, as an example. And then there's a third, which is the environmental bottom line. And so I thought, again, back when I was 25 and started SAMBAZON, I thought that was one of the coolest things ever. And I wanted to be one of the, I don't know if we were the first, probably not, but I wanted to be one of the first companies to start on day one with a triple bottom line philosophy and then, try to scale it. And I hope one day we can be a public company with the triple bottom line. And if, more social entrepreneurs get out there and challenge themselves to create not only healthy bottom lines, but healthy triple bottom lines, then I think over time you could pretty easily see that commerce and business will be a positive force for good. And that is the main goal of the social entrepreneur, is to use our businesses as positive forces for good and change in the world.
You're checking off all the boxes. I was even going to ask you, as you hit on these, like, yeah, explain what a social entrepreneur is for everybody. But that's exactly it. And I mean, that's what you guys have been: people, planet, profit. To me, this space is so exciting because it just makes good sense to me. It's this idea of course, do your business, have a healthy, profitable business, make great products that resonate with people. But at the same time, we've got to leave this place intact for future generations, which means taking care of our environment at every touch point of your business and taking care of people along the way, regardless of how far back you have to go. And that's what you guys have done. What was it? I mean, what were some of the earliest memories, I think, of going back, let's say going to Brazil, though, and going into the rainforest and seeing the farmers that are harvesting? Was there kind of a click moment too to go, this is for sure the right thing to do? Tell me a little bit about that experience of being there with farmers.
I will. I have something in mind, which is, I went down there, I want to say, and I've been to Brazil so many times, 50, 60, 70 times. Used to go a lot more than I go now. But I remember going there in probably 2011 or something like that. So we had been operating our factory on the banks of the Amazon River at that point in time for 6 or 7 years, right? if you're just a company, say you're a company here in the U.S. and you buy, if I need strawberries to put in my acai drink or whatever it is, I don't got to go open a strawberry factory, right? I just call somebody up and say, send me a couple, drums of strawberry puree or something like that, right? I don't have to go all the way to the source, and I don't have to be the manufacturer of it. But in the case of acai, we are that manufacturer, right? And so with being a manufacturer, now all of a sudden that means that we have, and wanting to do it in an equitable way, we have people like, we have forest engineers and agronomists on our payroll, and they go out and they work with our growers and grower communities, organic certification, supply chain, all these sort of things. So anyways, so I was down there and I was spending a day with one of the forest agronomists. Okay. And her name is Tekka. And Tekka was she's like a master, forest pharmacologist, meaning that she knows, like, if you're sick, you want that tree bark and that bug will take away that. Okay. So she's amazing, right? She's the boss. And I asked her, I said, Tekka, like, what's our reputation? That's what I wanted to know. What are the people? Because if you take the amount of certified growers that SAMBAZON was working with at the time, which was around 2,500, I want to say that, and each one of those certified growers has a family of an average of close to 10 people, right? So 2,500 growers, 10 people, that's 25,000 people, right? That basically when they, when the growers, when they're cultivating their land, they're back to sustainable management. They're managing through an agroforestry system. They're managing their groves, and they're bringing us fruit. That is supplying 25,000 people. And I said to myself, wow, that's a big deal, right? Where does that put us in terms of employers in the state? Oh, that makes us number one. We're the number one employer in the state of Amapá, right? Outside of the government. I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I said to Tekka, like, what is our reputation? What do they think of SAMBAZON? And what she said was something that has made me, at the moment, very proud, and still does. And what she said was the following: SAMBAZON goes to the people. And I was like, well, what do you mean we go to the people? And she said, previous to SAMBAZON, all of these growers, they would cultivate their acai, they put it in a basket, they put it out on the dock, and then somebody with a boat would come and they would take it away. And the people, they didn't have any connection or link at all with where their work was going, right? They get paid for it, of course, but that was it, and it was gone. And maybe it went to Sao Paulo, or maybe it went to just around the corner, or maybe who knows where it went, right? And it didn't really matter, because it's like it's like you making something in your workshop, and it's like you put it on your doorstep, and then the next thing you know, it's gone, right? Like, you don't know where it is, right? Yeah. With SAMBAZON, what we had done is, by coming into the forest and actually giving a crap about the conditions on the farm and the people and what's happening in the social and the environmental system in the Amazon rainforest with the acai farmers and growers, we actually take a team and we go out into the forest and we work with these people and we help them with best practices and share best practices across different communities. We help them with their cultivation. We help them with their yields. We provide equipment. We do all of these things. If the community gets together and says, we need to pay 3 new teachers for our school, this is where SAMBAZON comes in and supports. And so what she said was, SAMBAZON goes to the people, and so all of a sudden there's this sense of identity for the growers, and there's a sense of pride that all the work that they were doing is actually going somewhere, and they know where it's going, and they can even go on their smartphone and go and look at our website or something like that, and know that I'm a certified SAMBAZON acai grower, and this is where my acai is going. So anyways, that was a moment for me that between the scale of the amount of people that we were touching and the good vibes, the good vibrations that we were bringing through our supply chain was something that touched me and was actually, I think, real important validation as an entrepreneur and as a businessman.
I love this. And I think even ending on that, this idea that you can do good business well, right? I mean, you can do good while doing good business. I mean, you guys have been very successful. The company I know has continued to grow. I read recently that you guys went through another, significant round of fundraising. You're hoping to be public someday. All of this kind of ties into, though, what I've heard you say over and over, this idea of it's not just commerce or capitalism, it's conscious commerce, voting with your dollar. You're always promoting that. So what do you say to somebody who's listening, who wants to, they're like, oh, this sounds good. One, it's delicious, but just this whole movement. Why are you, talk about conscious commerce, the role that the customer plays, your customers and stakeholders, what role do they play in all this?
Yeah. As I was saying before, that when people inherently, they come to your product and they like it for its goods and services, but then you create this brand loyalty and this emotional connection with your consumer because you're going that extra mile or you're doing something positive for the world, for the environment, and for people in general. Believe it or not, it's funny. I'm like 2 parts environmentalist and 8 parts social entrepreneur, socialist. I mean, I'm big on let's work with each other. Let's help each other. Let's solve our social problems. And then I think if we do that, the environment will actually kind of take care of itself a little bit. But it's such an exciting field for people to be in right now. And for young entrepreneurs, as I said, when I came out of college, there was, we didn't even have there wasn't even a sustainability club at my university. They weren't teaching anything that had to do with sustainability. And now, Derek Sabori teaches sustainability classes in college. You can get a degree in sustainability.
I'll bring it right to your doorstep. I'll bring it into your house, into your company.
That's right. So, that whole idea that social entrepreneurship is the coolest job in America, I think it holds true even more than today. And the other point, which is also very important, is, you don't have to get on a plane and go to Brazil or India or, the Galapagos Islands. You don't have to do that to be a social entrepreneur. You can link up with somebody who actually did that already and join forces with them and help build a business, right? You don't have to be the first person to do it. It's like building a house or something. It's like somebody comes in and they bulldoze it all so it's flat. And then other people come in and they build a foundation. And the next thing you know, people are framing walls. And by the end of it, people are doing landscaping in the pool. Whatever point that you come in on the journey, you can come and bring your efforts to that idea, that conscious business, that's conscious enterprise. And I think people more and more, especially the younger generation, they're attracted to it. And that goes back to what you were mentioning, Derek, with conscious consumerism. People want to do the right thing inherently. They want to do the right thing, and they want they want their efforts to count. I mean, you go out and you work hard, you earn money, and then you go out and you vote with that money, And I'm not saying that if something costs $1 that's non-organic and it costs $2 that it's organic, that you're going to go out and you're going to make that $2 choice every single time, because sometimes they're tough or whatever it is. Sometimes times are tough, but if it's an organic and it's a non-organic and they're both $1, you're going to go organic every time, right? And so our job as a social entrepreneur is to find a way to squeeze the gap, through efficiencies, through critical thinking, so that the discrepancy between organic and non-organic, as an example, is less and less and less. And so in the end, your consumer can, make it easy for your consumers to vote, make it easy for them. Don't make it hard. Don't make it cost double, and I think that's our big challenge here at SAMBAZON, is to continue to try to become more and more efficient, and to make it easy for consumers to vote with their dollars, pick the right make the right decisions. And, just like an entrepreneur is like using their business to create a better future, you can be a responsible citizen and use your dollars to make the right decision to support the types of businesses and services that you want, that are going to help make the world a better place. So I think that's it, my man.
I love it. What do you, I want to know what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of, whether your personal journey or the companies or product that you guys have made? What stands out?
What am I the most proud of? Two things. One, I would say is that, knock on wood, we have not as a company, we have not consciously cut a corner. It's interesting because it's like a kid that, a company, it's like a living organism. It's 23 years old now. Our company is. And you have to make decisions along the way all the time. Maybe you think that making this decision is going to save you $1. Maybe you think that it's going to be the easy way or keep you out of trouble or whatever it is. But you kind of have that thing in the back of your head that you know what the right decision is. You know what the right ethical decision is. And I'm proud that we have continued to make not always the easy decision, but the right decision over and over. And I think, over time, that results in a brand that people respect, that people love, that people can believe in. And then the second part is, we have managed to bring in mentors and partners and investors along the way who have supported us, invested in us, in our dreams and in our businesses, and have not asked us to compromise, and have really supported our vision in helping the company become what it was always destined to become, which was a triple bottom line company that, at scale can be good for you and your friends and your community, can also be good for the people and the environment. So you have this sort of win-win-win situation.
So, we talked about how long you guys have been doing this. You just said 23 years, your baby's grown up. It's a grown adult almost now, going off into the world on its own. How has sustainability, though, and social entrepreneurship changed since 2000? I mean, and from my perspective, I think things have evolved a lot. I think the landscape is a lot different. The intensity of it all is much different. You weren't talking about Scope 3 emissions, 15 years ago, I would imagine.
No.
Talk a little bit about how this whole landscape has changed as you see it.
Yeah. So it's definitely become a hotter topic in the investment community, in the global community, if you will, which is good because it raises the bar. It's also, believe it or not, I mean, I remember, 5 years ago going, okay, we got to get an ESG score. Everybody's talking about ESG. We need an ESG score. Well, guess what? They don't give scores for ESG, Little did I know, sort of thing. So it's interesting. It's like when when organics, up until I want to say 2003 or something like that, there were 25 different organic certifying bodies that were all kind of doing something a little bit different, but it was all kind of the same, but there was no one standard, right? And then the US government, through the work of that first generation of the natural foods entrepreneurs, actually got the US government to create USDA standards. And all of a sudden there was a bar, right? Previous to that, it didn't exist. Fair trade is sort of like that too, in that there still does not exist one common law for it. And then my point being that ESG is now, it's becoming more and more lights are being shown on it, but there doesn't exist like the standard where you can just look up, go to the dictionary and be like, okay, how do I do this? Where do I go? How do I get this score? What does it mean? So with all of this attention that's going on ESG in a short amount of time, it's helping shape the industry a little bit, and it's making the standards clear. And once the standards are clear and more organized, more people can access them. And I think that that's going to help facilitate the change more and more for companies who want to be more sustainable. Yeah, I think there's also technology that's helping, like
Mm,
measuring, as an example. And, it's not, if you're a small company, if you're doing $1 million in sales, you can't really afford to go spend $50,000 a year on software to measure your, scope 3, greenhouse gases, right? You can't do that.
right.
This is kind of reserved for like big companies that have millions of dollars to spend to make their image look good or something like that, right? Or to do the right thing, which companies are trying to do that too. So I think that there's an element of, even though it might be a little bit trendy, to be sustainable, I think that's
Hmm.
actually a healthy trend. And maybe it makes some of the, not just the small entrepreneurial companies, but also some of the multinationals, which I know it is, wake up a little bit and figure if they don't clean up their act a little bit, then the consumers who are voting with their dollars will stop giving those dollars and make it a little bit more of a fair playing field. So some different changes.
Yeah, yeah, but it sounds like they're all good. There's changes. What are the challenges that you guys, as of, I guess, the challenges maybe that have stood out the most, or challenges that you still see ahead? I'm sure there's still things that you still want to do. Are there things that you feel like are just out of reach, or struggles that you're just like, hey, we cannot get beyond this challenge here?
Um, Again, as a verticalized company, challenges down, on the ground in the Amazon rainforest, all the way to, challenges, at our own stores, and it's sort of everywhere in between. So there's plenty. A couple that might stand out. So one is, we're primarily in the, frozen business. We have some chilled as well, but in frozen business. And that means a lot of plastic. Plastic
Mm,
is plastic, plastic, plastic. That's something that the code has not been cracked on how to deliver a at a cost that's acceptable, a, a plastic alternative. We sell these smoothie packs that you cut open and you put in your blender, and the packaging cost of the plastic is probably, you know 10 or 20 cents or something like that, and the cost of the non-plastic one was like 60 or 70 cents. I mean, it's a huge difference, huge difference. And so we did a
mm,
bunch of work just in the last couple of years on trying to push it, and at the end got to like, there's just no way, the amount of extra cost that would come onto it, because sustainability, I didn't say this before, sustainability, you can't just be all social bottom line looking good and environmental bottom line looking good and economic bottom line be looking bad. You're not gonna survive.
that's right.
You won't be around for a while. So sustainability means just as much about, the economic health of your company as it does social and environmental. And something I learned a long time ago, that, you know, if there's no business, if there's no scale, there's very little impact. You can be a tiny little thing and have some amazing sustainability program, but if you're not, if you're not, if you don't have any scale doing it, your amount of impact is going to be lower. Let's just say. So, so plastic has been a hard topic there. And then the other one I would say is just that, we are the largest acai brand in the United States, and actually in the world, but we are a small, fish in the big pond of acai. It's like, I don't know. We're not quite Minute Maid of orange juice, but think how much orange juice there is compared to Minute Maid, right? It's like probably 1,000 to 1 or something like that, right? So we're one
Sure.
small part of a big industry, and I would just say that the industry itself, the industry that we founded our company in order to create an organic alternative, to create a fair trade alternative, that industry has not completely gone to organic and fair trade, as an example. It hasn't. There's still the conventional industry, just like, organic cotton compared to conventional cotton, right? So we're the organic cotton, farmers, if you will, and the conventional cotton farmers still have all the problems that they had before. And of course, I'm talking about, using cotton as an analogy to acai. And so some of the challenges that industry continues to face, oftentimes kind of spills over into our sandbox, if you will, being on the organic side. And it's like, you want to tell people like, no, that's the whole reason that we started our company, was to create an alternative. But there still remains lots of work to do in that conventional acai industry. And it's one of the things that we created our company to do, not just to create an alternative, but also to influence that industry and try to right that industry into a better direction. And we still have a ways to go with them. So that, I would say, is a second. And I wouldn't say it's a lost cause or anything like that. We just got to keep working hard and trying to figure out a way to influence it more.
Keep on marching down the road. Well, you guys are, out ahead of the pack, doing so much good work. So thank you for that. And thanks for the leadership that you're providing in this space, I think, and in your company. I guess lastly, what do you want customers, listeners to understand about your company, the brand, this movement, the role you play, the role that they play? Any last kind of parting words on what you really want them to take away from all of this?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I want people to understand that acai and acai bowls are life. They're great. They're delicious, amazing, breakfast, lunch, snack, whatever it might be. Some people even eat them for dinner. They're great. We have actually, introduced a ready-to-eat acai bowl in a plant fiber package. So we did manage to get around the plastic in that product, and that product's in half the supermarkets in America. So you can definitely find that. So first and foremost, if you haven't had acai, please go out and try it. And I'm pretty sure you will be a believer. Do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Yeah. Thank me later. And just the second part is that, SAMBAZON as a business, which started, from a couple of 20 somethings and a credit card, is now a global business making change with every unit of product that we sell. And hopefully it serves as an inspiration for other, social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs out there, and has created a win-win situation, not only for you, the customer, but also for the environment in the Amazon. And that's the type of business that you should get out there and support. And that's the type of business that we've built and we're very proud of. So we appreciate all of the customers out there, existing and new, after this podcast goes out. Acai is life. Acai is wonderful stuff. Make sure you get out there and have some of it.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much. As we say here in the show, good things are happening, and they're definitely happening there at SAMBAZON and amongst all your peers as well, that you guys have been driving this for so long. So thank you for making time to be on the show, tell your story, talk to us about all this. Other than that, go get your SAMBAZON bowl. And thank you, Ryan. We'll see you out there. And guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Derek. It was a pleasure, man. Anytime. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, thanks for listening. This is a show produced by The Underswell and our School of Understanding. If you're interested in being a part of this movement and want to dive deeper into the art of understanding sustainability better so that you can do things better, be sure to visit us at theunderswell.com. We offer structured, easy-to-follow workshops, courses, and member resources to make sustainability a part of your career or lifestyle. Because remember, no matter what role you play a role, and we're here for you. Thanks again.